Zeeburg is my first major European project in Cities 2, and I jumped into it headfirst as a spontaneous reaction to the release of the Netherlands region pack. From the start, I knew it would be a learning process. So I've put in the work for this monster episode, which kicks off some major changes, revamping Old Town, reworking road layouts, and adding new public transit, bike infrastructure, districts, and detailing. Let's dive in. Alright, so we're going to kick off this major project with a significant traffic revamp for a couple of reasons. One is that we don't want too many lanes of vehicle traffic in Old Town. It needs to be more pedestrian, bike and public transit oriented. But an even more important reason in terms of gameplay functionality is the fact that in the future we do expect to expand all along the coastline here with some pretty significant densities. And we can only imagine just how much traffic is going to try squeezing through Old Town when a couple thousand new residents living in these districts attempt to reach the Station District and Kesselfeld, the main job centers of the city. Now, of course, as the city continues to grow, we'll be building all new job centers throughout much of the map. But given the fact that the one I have immediately planned is a port on this peninsula, that is just going to worsen the issue we're looking at. And this tells me we probably need two bypasses. One which is going to branch off right here from the expressway, move really close to the historical post office, and then kind of snake its way around Old Town, connecting up to Juniper Street. We can then follow up by reducing the overall vehicle capacity on Juniper Street, add some bike infrastructure and whatnot to really incentivize people moving around Old Town instead of through it. And the other bypass is probably going to have to be a tunnel dug underneath this main strait and popping up at the harbor. So kicking off with the 4-lane bypass, the expressway bridge here is going to need a pretty significant revamp. So we're going to delete most of it, but I'm tempted to just kind of keep a segment because hopefully I'll be able to just upgrade this to a 4-lane segment and then just kind of move it slowly with the upgrade tool, because I think I kind of nailed the incline and the height as well, so I may be able to reuse that. I am going to make sure it is disconnected from this segment. We are actually also going to remove all of this. Oh yeah, this is a big change. Grabbing the regular 4-lane road will enable an upgrade, make sure it's elevated, and then I'm going to disable all snapping so that we can slowly but surely kind of move this in towards the center of the open space we have available here. What I basically need is 2 lanes of space on either side of the overpass. So I need a space of 2 lanes right here and right here, so that they can join into the 4-laner underneath this overpass. So we'll do yet another upgrade just to get it moving. Yeah, we'll do like this, and then I might just have to use move it to change this segment so that we get a bit of a curvature, because it is slightly too aligned to this side of where the previous road's at, and we don't want that. So we're going to change this a little bit, just manually doing it with move it. Then I pretty much need this to go down to ground level. Now this segment here is going to be composed of a fully custom segment with tram roads, dedicated bike lanes, and I think 8 lanes of traffic if we can manage. So it's going to require a bit of a road builder tweaking, but we are going to just kick off by getting the regular 8-lane divided road in place, because this is pretty much what we're going to build this massive custom road from. So just centering it as much as we can, 90-degree angle, and we will basically just connect that to the overpass. This is also going to allow us to check whether our previous adjustment of this curve was correct, and it doesn't really seem like that. You can kind of see it's kind of offset a bit to the right here, so a little more move it magic. And this time around we can't move the full node because that is going to move everything, so we're just going to grab manipulation mode, grab this sub node, so to speak, and try to get this aligned. Yes, just like that. Now I think we have ample space on either side for 2 lanes to branch off and move underneath. Before we can make this connection, we need the actual bypass, which is hopefully also just going to make it a little easier to visualize the complexity underneath the overpass. So I have just cleaned up a few of these connections, which we can't really find the space for anymore. And we are also going to be removing this lane right here by the post office because the bypass is going to run really close to it. Then it is going to move really close alongside Old Town and require a few changes to some of the fortification layouts here just to make it make sense. But we're going to make sure we keep all the water in place and just have a more complex canal layout. Alright, so not fully decided on the specifics of this particular segment, especially since I do imagine it would be fun to actually have some housing on this small island here. But I do sort of enjoy the added complexity of all the new bridges and the sort of canals we're now getting. And of course, the added bonus is that this thing is seeing immediate use. So this is traffic which I can only imagine would otherwise have to funnel through Juniper Street. And I think it's going to be a ton of fun modifying this segment to our exact needs. So I think the first thing we're going to do is add some dedicated bike lanes also to the elevated segment, which means we're actually going to keep the traffic light here so that we can have a transition of bikes, whether you want to use the bypass or the elevated segment. And we also need to get the trams from this 8-lane segment onto the elevated segment to serve this part of the city. So let's see, we'll grab the regular double tram tracks, get these added in here. That is going to transition pretty nicely onto the overpass, and we'll get the specifics of this figured out a bit later. It is all still vanilla though, just with some fancy upgrades, so applying some road builder modifications is going to be exactly what we want. So the cool thing here is that we have plenty of space for just making the sidewalks a little more narrow, and we can utilize that space to add a few medians. So the first thing we're going to do is actually make sure these bike lanes are fully protected by adding a median in between them and the vehicle lanes. We're gonna make sure to do this on either side. Now we can reduce this to a width of 1 meter as well, but we're just gonna stay with 2 meters for now and see if that is actually going to be sufficient. Then we're going to increase the size of the middle median to 5 meters so that we can maybe add some grassy textures and whatnot. And we're gonna make sure that the innermost lanes are still shared tram lanes, so that we still have the tracks in place. Of course, the cool thing by increasing the middle median to 5 meters instead of 2 is that this transition now almost seems seamless. And as we have a closer look, there are still plenty of sidewalk space. We're going to add the grassy median here and some fancy trees because we don't need an actual station along this segment since we have one right here by Juniper Street. As for the name of this monster, I've opted for bike protected 8-lane divided road. And I'm just going to slightly reduce the speed limit down to 50 km/h. As the bypass is already seeing some significant usage, we're just going to quick and dirty add some dedicated bike infrastructure before moving on, because we still have some big picture road revamps to do, one of them being this mess by the central train station. A big problem with the current placeholder setup is that because it's comprised of these separate expressway segments, it would be total pain trying to move a tram line through here and connect directly to the central station. And I think we need just that for some cool and very functional connectivity. So once again, we resort to pausing the game because we're going to make a complete mess of things. In fact, we're going to pretty much get rid of all this. I am going to utilize the tram parallel station just as a bit of a placeholder so we know what we're working with and the area we're trying to connect the tracks to. Might even place 2 at a bit of an off angle just to make it look a little more interesting. We don't need all these tracks, so it's just for the visuals, if anything. We're going to opt for a mixture of a regular avenue, perhaps with a bit of road builder magic, and then a few parallel segments down here, because there's a lot of connectivity to make sure we get right. I obviously also want to be able to utilize the inbuilt bus hub at the station, and we need to ensure that the trams can flow through this junction without much issue. It's gonna be interesting. Okay, so I think we're actually off to a pretty decent start. Obviously, it's a little bare bones until we do further modifications, but the foundations are here, and having the regular roads being used here is just going to be so much easier. And I think with the addition of the parallel mode here, it's still a plenty interesting setup. So a couple of rules we can already implement to make this a little more interesting is I need to cover it up with some bike infrastructure, because I imagine that is something that is heavily invested in. So let's just see. For the parallel segments, we obviously don't want dual tracks. I say obviously, but I don't think that should be the case at the very least, but we want easy access to the bus station. Which is also why we have this one directional road leading directly in here, and hopefully buses will be able to enter in a decent fashion this major crossing here. We'll see. We'll need to allow bikes to travel all the distance of the station as well. Something like this. So actually this should probably just be doubled. Yep. Same for this setup right here. And all throughout. Now, I'm not too fussed about the lacking road connections currently, because we'll just wait and see just how wide we're going to make these roads with the road builder and some medians and maybe some protected bike lanes. Actually, definitely some protected bike lanes. So I'm not going to worry about that just yet. And if the road doesn't turn out to be wide enough, we're just gonna enable guard mode and casually bring these 200-year-old buildings a little closer to the street to enable connectivity. So let's see, we can already add some traffic rules here, that's for sure, because I don't think we want an intersection here at all, which means we'll disallow this. Can I disallow this left turn? Yes, I can. All right, so that should work. This one we want to keep, obviously. Same as this one, we have crossing traffic. And then we need the tram upgrades. Now this is going to be a fun one, because it's going to be a little asymmetrical in nature. Because what we're going to do is we're going to bring... So let's see, we'll need a tram upgrade to this segment. And we'll need a tram upgrade to this segment. But then we very quickly need to just get these exits and entrances correct. So this is going to be the best transition onto these tracks as I can do. Probably going to disable snapping to make it as smooth as possible. And then we need the exact opposite from the other direction. So I'm just going to connect with a straight segment at first, like this. And then make sure we are at a 180-degree angle. And we get this connection in place. Hopefully I can fix up some of this ugliness. I think for starters, we're going to flip this in the correct direction. Come on. There it is. And then manipulation mode. My favorite tool, I guess you could say, should be able to just clean this up a little bit and make it a little smoother. Oh yes, that's the stuff. Disable some crossings here, and things are starting to look just all right. Get rid of some of this stuff. Now the tram segment here is no longer needed, of course. And what is wrong? Oh yeah, I need to flip the direction of this segment. There you go. Continuing the network, we need to upgrade this segment. We'll need to upgrade this segment as well. Now this transition, this turn here looks to be fairly smooth, so that's nice. I kind of want to have the trams make as smooth turns as possible. This feels a little more realistic, so we'll add a single track to this segment. And from here on out, it should be, dual tracks running in the center of the road. And connecting up to this mess right here, which definitely needs a little manipulation mode love as well. To maximize traffic flow, I don't want these to be full interchanges either, or intersections rather. So we're going to disallow a left turn, disallow another left turn, disallow another left turn, and then get rid of, let's see, we'll get rid of the crossings. And the actual intersection, I guess the question is whether I actually just want to maintain a crossing right here, maybe even with a traffic light, and then let's actually allow the left turn. So it's mainly a pedestrian thing here, just allowing a pedestrian crossing before you get all the way down here. This is sorter at the center of things, I guess. But one thing that might make sense then is to just switch these two road types around. So we'll grab this one right here and we'll upgrade. Let's see, we'll upgrade that to allow you to enter this district like this. And then we're going to grab the other road, this one here, that is bi-directional, and we'll commit to this upgrade. I think that makes a little more sense now that we are allowing this crossing. And then we might as well have the crossing on, the crosswalk be present on either side, since it is going to be a fully fledged traffic stop. And we'll just make it a little more smooth. Now let's get down to a bit of road builder business, and now we have the naming in place. So I'm just gonna make sure that this is a bike protected 6-lane divided road. I am going to drop the speed limit to 50 as well, just for good measure. And then we're going to give it much the same treatment we gave the 8-lane road. So this will be expanded to a 5-meter wide median. And we're going to get some dedicated medians to make sure that the bike lanes are fully protected. And we have the space to make sure that they are still 2 meters wide on either side, which is really nice. And I think this is going to help with potentially this connectivity issue as well. So this is really quite great. Now let's see if the tram upgrade is still going to work, or if I'll need to... I'm gonna need to make a little change. So we're using Road Builder and saying edit all instances to edit the existing one, and we can make this a shared car or bus and tram lane. So yeah, so that we get our tram lanes in place. Perfect. Now it is quite a bit more wide than previously, which is fine. We do have the space, so we're going to say place more. We're going to deselect snap to zoning cell length so that we can upgrade from the center and out. Perfect. Gotta make sure we find the center point right here. One additional connectivity issue fixed. This one we'll have to figure out. I'm probably just gonna be cheeky and move it, to be honest, but so far so good. Now we've got a bit of a parking lane here, which I don't really want. But that does allow us to add some of the like the grass stretches, which we're also going to be utilizing here. And down here, this just automatically upgrades. That's nice. And I actually, yeah, that's the case for the 6-lane as well. So I think technically I don't have to add the 5-meter wide median, but yeah, whatever. We have the custom version in place now. Just gonna cover the whole thing with grass, and then we'll see where it makes sense to add a station. Really does feel like being back in City Skylines 1 when I utilized the lane connector tool of the traffic mod. The reason I'm doing it for this particular interchange or intersection, which isn't supposed to be an intersection, is that there's this tram turn here automatically spawned, and I don't want that. So yeah, we're just doing it the manual way. Moving through and getting this all fixed up. Oh wait, I completely I missed one here. I need this connection as well, and then I think I'll disallow this one. Unfortunately, it does seem like these settings actually reset as soon as I save the game, but yeah, I guess we'll manage. We can live with this setup. Although I think this highlights an even greater problem, and we are getting nerdy now in terms of traffic, but you seem to enjoy it as much as I do. And that's the fact that if we insist on having no stoplight here for a good flow of traffic, we will have trams weaving through 2 lanes of active traffic to get onto this segment. We kind of have the same thing at play right here, but in this particular case, I think we're going to like grab a traffic light and get that enabled either way. maybe even a crossing, something like this, I guess. So right here, I don't see it as a major problem because we have a high density development here, and we might have some more like modern residential here as well. But it is certainly a bit of a problem right here. I guess the slightly boring but functional way of fixing this is to actually get rid of the tracks right here and then just make this a dual track and then add the single track down by this segment like this. I think this turn should be doable for the trams we utilize here in Zeeburg. Yeah, it's a little more boring, but I guess it is a little safer. So if you've got any input on what you prefer, or maybe a third solution altogether, then please let me know in the comments. Alright, so I've just enabled the colored bike path mod, and this is fun to play around with. We're not going to utilize the red paths because that is just a little too Dutch for my tasting, so maybe the London blue. Ah, that looks cool. Now, a thing to note here is that it just overlays a new color on top of the vanilla green, so if you reduce the color intensity, you're going to have more of the vanilla green poke through, which in my case, I think I'm just gonna go full on for this London blue, just for something a little different. And it also kind of reminds me of the color we have in Denmark, although it's a little more light in Denmark. A light blue is used there. I don't know if we have... we don't have quite the same, but you can say custom and pretty much choose exactly the color you need. But it's a fun mod. And I think we're gonna stick to this color here. It adds a pretty nice contrast, I feel, not just to all the greenery in terms of the grassy medians and of course the trees and the parks, but also all the reds and dark brown roof tiles we have throughout much of the city. As I'm doing a few final configurations, I don't want to spend too much time on this particular mess here by the train station because we're still trying to like maintain a big picture view of things instead of detailing. There's a bit of connectivity here I should get fixed though, because we can't really let the city play, or run rather, the simulation before we have it all figured out. Otherwise it's just gonna cause a few issues. So I think to just kind of flank the parking lot. Actually, I don't mind that. Maybe move it. If I adjust this node to the node, this height, yeah, I think that kind of works. All right, all fixed up. In terms of the nice hospital, we're just gonna move it. Make sure we get that kind of squeezed. And how much space can it take right here? It does stretch the actual lot size, but that's because if we add one of the upgrades, I think it's this one, yeah, it's going to utilize the extra space. I don't think we actually want that, or do we? Can I do this and then use better bulldozer to get rid of some, if not all, of the hedges here? Yeah, I think that might actually just work. Seeing as we're pretty flush with cash, I wouldn't mind getting the second tram line up and running, even though the stretch is going to be very limited and it probably won't see a lot of use. The current line pretty much just follows Juniper Street all the way out here to Wilhelm's Park. So it's a pretty simple straight segment, and I'd like to have like what is basically going to look like a cross. So a new line that serves the central station and then crosses right here in Alexandria and then moves out to this part of town. And then we're going to have two stops here, one by Juniper Street, which we already have, and then one somewhere alongside King's Road, so that you can get out and you can jump onto this tram rather easily, like a pretty quick transfer. So I think we might do two stops and we'll see if that is too much. But if we have one alongside this segment, that does leave a bit of a distance before you reach the terminal station at the train station, and it does allow you to move past some pretty complex infrastructure that isn't the nicest in terms of like pedestrian friendliness, and then maybe an additional stop here as well right before you move on to the bypass, or sorry, the overpass. This one is also just going to be right next to the Juniper Street stop, so that's your transfer possibility. I'm gonna see if I can just map this out, or if I need like special end segments to make this possible. So let's get our 2 stops added on this segment of King's Street, angling it a bit further into Alexandria, so that there's about equal distance between the 3 stops of this line. And then this stop over here is going to be, I mean, I would prefer moving it really close to the transfer option here, but that is going to clog up traffic a little bit. So I think just having it centrally located along the segment is going to be just fine. We'll see if this is actually going to work, because I need a place for the trams to reverse or loop, which I don't think is currently possible, but we'll see. Now, for some strange reason, it won't allow me to easily place a node alongside this stretch here. Not quite sure why. I can add one to the intersection pieces here, which, I mean, I guess that kind of works. But then I can't really add one to this segment. Can I? Okay, so I can actually move through though, even though there is a stop here. Okay, so there's a bit of wonk going on, and I won't be able to move it back here. That is slightly annoying. I absolutely hate making temporary stuff, so I think I'm just gonna try something out on the other side of the small river here, just so that we can actually get this line in place. So I am just gonna place this really simple station. It's basically a passenger stop track. Just gonna get it connected up with like a really quick road. And then hopefully this will allow me to actually get this connected. A bit of a temporary solution, although we might actually be able to utilize this station. And I do think it's probably a little more fun if the tram network doesn't share the lanes with the vehicles at all times, but sometimes branch out into fully dedicated segments as well. So yeah, as long as I can get this connection in place, I think I'm happy. And it seems like I can, so it's gonna be fun seeing them and navigate this new segment. Although I don't think we'll see any use of this station out here, to be honest. Alright, so for a bit of naming, this is the first tram line. So what will that be? Zeeburg Tram Network CTN 1? And it is, I guess it's pretty much Old Town Wilhelmspark, well, currently at least. And then the other line we just created is going to be CTN2. These are placeholders. If you've got a bit idea, then please let me know. Just gonna use the same colossal order tram here. And this one is Zeeburg Central Station. No, Zeeburg Central, and then that's not gonna be Wilhelmspark. That is going to be the name of the new district out here. So I definitely need a suggestion for that. So in case you don't know yet, I'm trying to use names for the districts in Zeeburg that are, how do I say it, easy to pronounce in English preferably. So we have a mixture of different things. We have Wilhelmspark, which sounds very German. Karlsbridge, which is a weird German English mix. We have Alexandria, which is just interesting. Of course, Old Town. And then we have Kesselfeld, which is also pretty German sounding. We need to name the station district as well. So suggestions that can kind of fit this weird bill are most welcome. And I'm kinda trying to achieve the same with the roads. So King's Road sounds very Londonish. Juniper Street is probably going to be Avenue of the Sun or something like that. So yeah, something that is easy to pronounce, can be fully English, but has like some interesting European aspect as well. Anyways, let's see this tram line in action. So the first one spawning by the depot should service CTN2. Oh yes, it's going to be so interesting to see if anyone actually boards these things. Oh, why did it move left or I'll have to check up on that. I might have made a weird mistake. We'll see. And the important thing here is just to check that the reverse mechanism actually worked for that station, and that is very much the case. I mean, it can just about make this turn. It is probably just a little too tight, so might need a bit additional move it magic. Oh yeah, we've already got someone waiting here. Miss Katarina Moore, with her doggy, Abby, no less. Looks like she's ready to actually board the tram. Come on. Oh, she's moving into Alexandria. Cool, cool. Now, with all these new road projects, I'm really feeling an itch to start actually expanding the city, and we'll get plenty of development and some redevelopment done in this episode. But before we do that, I just want to make some quick adjustments to Avenue of the Sun, or more specifically the part that cuts through Old Town, at least as a starter. So the first thing we're going to do, without completely revamping the road here, is that we're going to change it from the 4-lane road to the divided version, because that is going to create completely separated tracks for the trams here. So they're going to be separated from the other modes of transportation, which should incentivize using trams, because obviously travel times are going to be lowered. And then we're going to have double bicycle lanes throughout. And we'll probably actually drag them through the entire length of this avenue here, even though this roundabout is going to be incredibly dangerous to use. We may even just turn that into a regular crossing, to be honest. Anyways, let's bring this out to at least here, so that you can bike through dedicated infrastructure all the way from Wilhelmspark and into Old Town. And obviously you need to continue biking within Old Town, so we're going to grab the single bike lane, and we'll add that to the outermost side here so that it follows the direction of the traffic. This is where we want to incentivize you going another direction, basically. So I'm going to grab the avenue I have here with this pretty chunky median in the center, and we're going to upgrade, or I guess technically downgrade, to this type of segment here. And this also means we'll be reducing these two branches to a 1-lane segment, and potentially even disabling the parking by adding grass strip along one side of the street here. Then we're going to further customize this already custom avenue segment with Road Builder, not editing all instances, but just using it as a template. And it is going to be a I need a version without the parking, which is more narrow, so minus parking. There is no consistency in how I'm naming this stuff. Fortunately, the parking is added as dedicated lanes, so that is going to be super easy to just get rid of. Oh, that looks nice with this slightly async thing, but I don't want like parking right next to the bike lanes. I'd rather just have the bike lanes be dedicated. So the 2 meters spent on parking, we're going to spend on added medians instead, which is going to make this a fairly cool, somewhat narrow avenue design. That's right. We'll grab this, we'll say place more, make sure we upgrade the elevated segment, as well as this segment in here. An additional change is going to be the conversion of at least this stretch of the bypass to a regular avenue segment, so that we can do some proper zoning alongside it. Because I imagine this is now going to be like an established island with some really old cool buildings, maybe a signature building or something. So it's probably better to just like get some zoning enabled, get the traffic speed down a little bit. But we're gonna have to be careful about what we do with this bypass, which also needs a dedicated name because the entire point of it is to handle a significant amount of traffic, and it needs to be smooth in terms of the traffic flow. Otherwise, the Sims that will live out here eventually won't feel incentivized to use it. They're still just going to cut through Old Town. We're just gonna give this a little test and see if we can make this look all right without it being a roundabout. It's going to require a bit of manipulation of this node, that's for sure. I don't want any texture issues or otherwise, but it's probably just better to get the traffic light in place. Well, it should be a lot safer for cyclists, if anything. And let's get the medians in place here. I think actually like the sidewalks seem to be plenty wide here, so just getting more medians, which is going to allow for more trees and whatnot, is always a welcome addition. Now, before I add the trees, and I'm hoping to use the large version of the London plane, I'm just gonna be a little nerdy and see if it makes sense in terms of the tram clipping. It doesn't really, does it? What about the linden? Yeah, that's a little better. I don't want to use any of these massive birch trees because I don't know, I just don't like how they look. So linden, elderly it is. The only other thing I might want to do is make an adjustment to the bypass, the avenue used here, so that the bike lanes are actually protected, because having them unprotected against what is meant to be a highly trafficked road, I don't know, just feels a little wrong. So we might end up doing that. I think for now we're just going to get the bike lanes added in so that we're at least ready to change a thing or two. And let's just jump straight into getting this connection in place as well. In terms of bike lanes, dedicated bike lanes in Old Town, I don't want to just plaster the whole place with double lanes. I'd rather just add some fun single lanes where it makes sense. Of course, making sure that you can complete a full loop in either part of Old Town. But I'm gonna wait with that for just a little bit, because I think it's time we do a bit of new development beforehand. And I've got a couple of plans. The first one is going to be a pretty significant revamp of the architecture here in Old Town. Now, when I built this, we had the Dutch themed region pack as well as the German pack available for us. And I think it turned out all right, although it does look quite Dutch, doesn't it? Even with quite a few of these German themed buildings mixed in. That is going to change though, because with the bikes patch, we got the most underrated zone ever added to the game. I say that because I think it's the best zone I've seen added to the franchise, and that is the European themed Old Town zone. Mixed use even, so it adds those storefronts and workplaces that we otherwise have attempted some pretty hacky solutions to kind of force into the urban fabric. Now, it's hard to put into words just how excited I am about the zone, so what better way to kind of showcase that than to actually get a few of them placed. So let's add a corner lot right here, and maybe, let's see, we'll remove this stretch of row housing and we'll get rid of this this alright asset, but it doesn't really look as old as these Old Town assets are, so let's have a look. We're going to filter for 2x2 assets to fit this corner here. And interestingly, despite this being a mixed use zone, it actually filters under residential within Find It at least. And then we can further specify the theme to be European, and here we have them. And I'm even going to make it more specific by just searching for old. And we've got corner buildings, we've got straight segments as well, and we're just gonna cycle through a few of these using my keybind for selecting a random asset, and just look at these. They look proper amazing. I mean, yeah, that's just absolutely incredible assets. So yeah, I'm gonna get a bunch of these placed throughout Old Town, and it's going to look fantastic, no less. And wait a minute, we're just gonna have a quick look at the demographics again before we do this, and then I'm going to have to remember to check up afterwards. So currently 4,600 residents, with a very meager 344 jobs, most of them being within the, let's see, the Maria Kunitz Royal School of Astronomy over here, the college, as well as some of the commercial establishments throughout Old Town. So it's going to be interesting to see how this will change, since this is all mixed use. And it's also going to be interesting to see how the resident count will change, because despite Old Town already being fairly dense, the mixed use housing adds a ton of households compared to the row house units. But without further ado, let's get a few of these placed and then just have a look at them moaning, and then we'll revamp Old Town. So I think since we've already got this one selected, we might as well place it. We can go a little deeper here. We've got the space for it. Now look at these. Oh, that is an incredible asset. The amount of details in these are just, yeah, chef's kiss. Can we go even? Is there a 4x4? There actually is. Can we fit it here? It seems like we can. I mean, look at these. Oh my. I'm getting this one placed. So this is just a quick showcase of why I think this zone is so nice. And then I promise I will slap on some sweet music and we'll have a nice time lapse getting these in place. But yeah, I'm pretty speechless. This is fantastic. So let's dive in.
Just like we're
Now that change certainly helps with my vision of Zeeburg being a bit of a mixture of different countries and architectural styles and a lot less Dutch. Obviously the addition of these Old Town assets really help, but I've also gone ahead and pretty much recolored every single remaining Dutch row house so that some of them have a more white look. Some of them have these dark roof tiles, and yeah, they don't look as traditionally Dutch like this one, which I haven't recolored. And I think this is all a very welcome change aesthetically, and as I mentioned, much more in line with my vision for Zeeburg, as it is starting to feel a little bit like a Hanseatic League city, in some sorts at least. Beyond the visuals, of course, this was also a nice functional change, because we have increased the resident count by about 1200, give or take, and we have at the very least doubled the employee count as well. We're not quite done with the changes to Old Town though. I have a few additional changes which I hope you will all enjoy. I think the first one is that I need to find the space for Titan's historic city hall. The very first moment I saw this asset in-game, I knew I had to place it in Zeeburg, and judging by the feedback you guys gave me in the comment section of my asset showcase video, which it basically was, you guys tended to agree. Now, she's a bit of a chunky girl, this one, but I think the church spires, or church-inspired spires, oh my goodness, my English, really helps just sell it, so I need to add it. And I was thinking that the quote-unquote custom city hall we built here using these 4 German corners probably just need to be replaced. But then at the same time, I don't really want to get rid of this constellation because I quite like it. So what I think we'll do as a compromise is we're going to densify Old Town even further. Oh, and there's also going to be a change to the road layout here, which has been very much requested, so I hope you'll all enjoy that one. But we'll start by the relocation of the old city hall, so to speak, and we're basically going to cut down the size of Park 1, which I should have named by now, because I have actually gotten some good suggestions for it. My bad. But what we're just gonna do is we're going to grab the fountain park here, or the small plaza as it's called, and we're just gonna flip that around and align it to the slightly more narrow segment of this park. And this is maybe going to require a bit of better bulldozer, no? Doesn't seem like it. I mean, it would be removing the homeless tents. That is just morbid. Yeah, please. Not this park, guys, come on. Then we're going to relocate this fella to the new available space. Let's see if we can just seamlessly drag this guy over. Get the adjustment sort of aligned like this. Move it a little closer to the Avenue of Enlightenment. And yeah, we'll need a bit of a connection here, but I'm confident we can squeeze in a narrow pedestrian street just to make sure that we have the connectivity we need. Oh, it's gonna be a little tight, but I think we can manage without too many issues. There we go. Now that should get this all connected up. I say that, but this segment actually isn't, so just a bit of movement. A cool aspect of the historic city hall is that it is fully functional. It is mighty expensive and it has a large upkeep, but it does add some pretty nice citywide bonuses as well. We now have the space for getting it placed, but we're not quite done reshuffling things here, especially with the road change I have planned. So we can just about squeeze it into the existing space here. Gonna make sure it is perfectly aligned to the pedestrian street. And what I would like then is for this to be a bit of an open square connecting the city hall with the major cathedral. But I'm not gonna delete any of this, we're just going to move it a bit. And we're gonna move it over here where we do have a bit of space, especially if we just make this pedestrian street a little narrower. So let's just grab the small version and get the upgrade in place, or downgrade technically. Before we do relocate this building though, we're going to get this traffic change in place. So the basic premise is that we're going to upgrade this road here to a 2-lane road, and that is going to be the main traffic road cutting through Old Town. So we're going to get rid of the, you know, the fact that the cathedral was previously kind of surrounded by traffic lanes. Instead, we're going to upgrade this down here to a pedestrian street so that it can still carry the tram tracks, of course. That is very important. This segment here, we're just going for, I think, a regular one here. Can I disable snapping, get a bit more control? I need to make sure that we have a road connectivity here, of course. Now this street here, I am also going to change to a pedestrian one, but it is probably going to need me to actually redraw it entirely. This gives us plenty of space to get this building block here kind of squeezed into this area instead, and then we have the open space right in front of the city hall. We'll need another pedestrian connection here just for road access and, I mean, just for the pleasure of our citizens, of course. And I'll be downgrading this segment, or redrawing it maybe, because that is looking a little odd. Then we'll just need to upgrade this road segment. Don't think that makes a ton of sense anymore. We'll get yet another pedestrian street in place. And it is just such a pleasure to finally see spires take place in our old town. That has been sorely missing in Cities 2 for the longest time, but with official asset support and the amazingly creative work of people before the official support, we're finally starting to see just that. And I think on that note, we are going to add an additional small, really old church within Old Town, because we do have an empty lot here, which I think would be a good fit. And this is actually going to be one of those pre-custom asset days creations, once again created by bunching up a ton of small props, and it is once again from Fragen's Church Pack, the same author who created the cathedral, and this one just looks wonderful. It almost has like a slight gothic look to it. I am a big fan, so let's just get this placed right here. So we've got all the spires of old representing religion, and I guess the seat of power. And as we zoom out a bit further, we've got spires of, well, money, finances, I mean, housing as well. Actually, we're gonna call a bit of a change here. This church is wonderful, but I think I have one that looks even older and might fit the lot a little better. So grabbing this fella, let's just relocate that to out here for now. It may actually get to stay. I'm not completely opposed to that. I think for now it's just gonna stick around these parts. And then from the very same asset creator, the very same pack, we've got this fella here, which is a little chunky. Hopefully it won't cause any issues in terms of like despawning props or anything like that, if I can just manage to make sure it's all clear from the roads, which can cause an issue or two. Oh yeah, we gotta do the same deal. So opening better bulldozer, anarchy components tool, making sure to just lock the church and all the, is this going to cover all the sub assets? I don't actually know. Oh, there you go. Now just look at the amount of props involved in building this. That is just crazy. I'm just gonna make sure I did the same thing over here. I don't think I have. I think I'm doing the right thing, and if I'm not, it's fairly embarrassing, but wow, great addition. Added some really quick surfaces here in Old Town, but more importantly, we need to make sure that the bike network is updated for this dual direction road now, and it is going to be mighty fun seeing just how much traffic this thing will be able to handle, or I guess won't be able to handle. One thing is for certain, the addition of additional residents here in Old Town has increased the popularity of the first tram line that runs in here, so that's also really nice to see. I've just been adding some super quick surfaces with the area bucket tool, and I'm adding a few trees into the mix as well. But that is going to be it in terms of the detailing session for Old Town. We have started chipping away at some highly detailed areas, such as this square here, but it's not something we're going to focus too heavily on just yet. What we do need, though, is an expansion to the bike infrastructure here. So I think as a start, we ideally need this to be with fully dedicated bike lanes. This is a pretty important entryway into Old Town, this bridge right here. So for good measure, let's just get this upgraded to a regular street segment, as well as this one. Let's just get rid of this altogether. I mean, that never was a great solution in the first place. And I think this should allow us to just commit to the double bike lane upgrade alongside the overpass, as well as these segments, and that is going to tie nicely into King's Road. Now, as mentioned, I don't want double bike lanes everywhere. I think that would just look a little too boring, and I do want to keep some street side parking within Old Town. I always just love the look of it, and I love seeing people move in and out and park with their cars. So in a situation like this, for instance, we could have a single bike track allowing you to move in this direction, and then over here we're going to have something in the opposite direction. Now this one is a no-brainer to get a bike path added, because it just takes away a bit of street side parking, but we already have some, a ton of dedicated parking. So I think that's an easy one to make, this one as well, because we can actually add it to the other side. So instead of removing some of the street parking, we're just kind of grabbing a bit of the sidewalk instead. Okay, so this next change I am very excited about, because we're going to build Zeeburg Central Station, the central historical train station, which might raise a few eyebrows because we've already got a central station at home, but this isn't Zeeburg Central Station, it is Zeeburg New Station. Should probably be Neue, but yeah, let's keep things English. And the historical context here is that the station district was pretty heavily affected by a certain worldwide conflict about 80 years ago. And I've tried to make this clear architecturally and in terms of the building age through the pretty stark contrast you experience when you drive from the heart of Alexandria and into the station district. So Zeeburg's new station was built due to rising demand and it's moving into a more global hub of finance, not as a replacement for the historical station, which we will place right over here on the opposite end of Old Town. For this purpose, we are of course going to be utilizing the historic central station from the German-themed region pack. And I'm going to place it within this forest here, so I'm gonna have to compensate and build a new forest somewhere else, because I do need major inner city parks as well. And I am just going to freeform place this with some contour lines. The area is pretty flat and we'll need this connection here. So let's just move it relatively close to the main road here, King's Road, and place it right here. We're gonna build a simple road network to get it connected and utilize some one-way streets for improved traffic flow, and hopefully also to accommodate the tram station moving within the vicinity of the central station. And we can hopefully get the tram station in place here without making too much of a mess of things. But yeah, I mean, My mileage is going to vary a bit here. We're gonna test a few things. I think for starters that is probably gonna work. A bit of manipulation mode might be necessary to just make that transition a little smoother. I think the main issue is going to be getting through this mess so that we can get out on the other side and serve the future districts alongside the coast. That's a bit of an interesting one. Actually, maybe just moving down to this avenue here and get that connected, and then probably just continuing that as like an actual avenue like this is probably a little more simple than the slightly wacky setup I had been working on. Let's see how this looks. We'll add in the bike lanes, of course. And which upgrade then? Well, we'll need the tram tracks added. We'll add that upgrade to about here, I think. That should allow us for a pretty smooth transition onto the avenue again. Once again, a bit of move it magic might be able to save the day here. So complex curve, we're just gonna branch out, move down here and see if we can smoothen it as much as possible without move it. And that is actually not too bad. Oh, we of course need to get the connectivity in place as well. So let's just see, that should work. Pretty simple stuff, really. So since we are going big, we're going to add all the upgrades, the commercial businesses, we're adding the rear exit, but we'll just get the extra platform in place at first, and then the rear exit. Turning it into a really beefy fella here, also allowing for the road network to continue beyond. I think we're gonna keep this space empty of any development because I'm not yet decided on whether this should be a terminus station or have through tracks. Might be good to just have through tracks for some of the other areas we'll build in the future. One thing's for certain, we can start connecting up these tracks to the existing train tracks here. Although I probably need, at the very least, to try and widen these and get more tracks in place, or alternatively have like a tunnel route or an underpass connecting up here. Because I'm not sure these small dual tracks here that run underneath Wilhelmspark would be the only tracks connecting to the historical station. Especially not during the age of like, I don't know, the golden age of train infrastructure. Yeah, it's a bit placeholder-ish, I guess, but it looks fun, and I'd rather get some of this heavy infrastructure in place first than having to retrofit it later. Something which could be fun, I think, would be a road moving underneath here so that we have an easy access to this area. Otherwise, there's quite the distance you have to go around. Let's try to create an underpass moving beneath all this. Let's see. This could be fun. This could be fun. So I don't want to move underneath the main node here. That's going to look odd. But potentially, if we do something like this, then it is hopefully all going to make sense when we actually build it, as with everything else. So I'm just adding the nodes in place. That's the first thing, and then I'm going to bump all of this to elevated segments. And then we're going to lower the ground a bit and see what we can make of this. And just trying to smoothen this out a little bit. Not quite sure if the clearance is enough. We'll have a look in a sec. That is absolutely fine and a lot of fun and very functional as well, because it allows for a much easier connectivity, of course, to this part of this district and the part beyond the train station, especially given the fact we might make it a through station and cover this all up with the heavy infrastructure as well. This will also allow for a pretty easy connection to the tracks here at the back end of the station. We're gonna make sure you can grab your bike all the way up to the frontal entrance of the station, and we definitely need some bike parking here as well. I don't think we have any throughout Zeeburg, which is not great. So let's get some bike parking right next to regular parking. We're gonna do the large bicycle parking hall, not because it's the most efficient one, but because it just about fits perfectly into the slot. Moving on, I think we're going to establish a bit of a park here. I just need to kind of separate this weird lot a bit further. So I think we're just going to grab the 2-lane road here, and then we're going to branch that into the main avenue. Importantly though, we're not going to have an intersection here, because I don't think that would make sense in terms of traffic flow. So getting rid of the traffic lights, both of the crosswalks, and then disabling a couple of left turns. There you go. And then this is going to be designated as the park. So we need a few basic paths at first. And right as I say that, I realize that maybe a bit more than basic paths. I haven't used any of the free Bridges and Ports parks just yet. So let's get the Parkside Cafe in place. A nice little asset. Pretty decent view of Old Town as well, at least the Cathedral of Zeeburg. Now we can get the paths in place, a quick surface and a few trees. That is some of the most lazy area bucket work I think I've done in this game, but I mean, that is pretty much what the tool allows for, right? Anyways, I have named it Concordia Park, and this district Concordia. I kind of like the name. I think it kind of fits with the weird theme of Alexandria, but it is a placeholder, I guess, or it's up to change. So if you've got a better suggestion, let me know. Alright, so moving on to the new island nestled in between Concordia and Old Town, I have named it the Armory. And the historical context here is that while it probably had a different name when it was just a geographical feature that some natives probably named, it used to be the main armory of whatever county or principality that Zeeburg was a part of during the Renaissance and early modern period. Later on, much of it was converted to light industry due to its proximity to open waters, and due deindustrialization, it is now a highly redeveloped area. So we're basically going to split the island. So this narrow strip of land is going to hold some of the old remnants of what this used to look like, and the majority of it on this side of the bypass is going to be a range of contemporary modern buildings from the 1980s and onwards, and mostly a mixed-use development. So in terms of the remnants of the old armory, I'm tempted to use some of these 3x2 Eastern European themed buildings, these specifically because they can actually be recolored. So I think I'm going to place this version, then see if I can grab a slightly wider version. A rule of thumb here is that the more wacky the color scheme is when you place it, the greater likelihood of this asset being recolorable, which is a bit odd, but that's how it works with this pack. I'm just gonna place, I think I'm gonna place a total of 4 of these, and we'll just use Move It to configure how we want them placed exactly. They will need a new color scheme before we do that though, so hopefully they can all easily be applied this kind of base start, which I don't think is too far off from what we really want. And then we can just start kind of configuring this color scheme a little bit so that we can get it right. With the old segment in place, we're gonna move on to getting some of the major contemporary structures down. And we're of course going to use some custom assets from PDX mods. The first buildings will be these two fantastic assets from the Continent set. And I think we're just going to place the major unit right next to the bypass, and then we'll configure two smaller units in some interesting fashion. So maybe one at a bit of an angle so we can get a road network going as well, adhering to the buildings. And then I'll see if I can enable... Can we fit in one additional one at an off angle back here without it taking too much space? I'm gonna give it a go. We'll probably need just a bit of move it. Yeah, to get that all sorted up, but it should line up almost perfectly for each of the floors. Just resetting it to the height of this asset. Alright, so it has some pretty awesome surface and planter detailing, some of which we might have to remove just to make this kind of fit in. But so far I think this is a good addition that isn't too tall. And we'll be adding in the round office tower at the opposite far end of the island here. This is from the Eastern European pack. And I think for all the leftover space we are just going to cram in some mixed use stuff from the plazas and promenades pack. Of course we'll need a proper road layout to accommodate all this, so I think we're going to have one intersection out here, and then whatever other connections we make, we'll just make sure it won't be full intersections, won't be able to disrupt the flow of traffic. So I'm just making a quick mashup here with a regular road, but I can already see that at least these back segments here needs to be much more narrow. Even just turning these out segments to a key will make the road visually more narrow, and remove some street side parking as well. And then adding in maybe some trees is also going to visually make it more narrow by making the sidewalk more busy. But I don't know if there's been like a recent game update, but fortunately we can now add street side trees without actually removing the street side parking, which is pretty cool. So we'll get some of this added throughout. Although I think for at least a segment or two we're actually going to add like some grass on the side, just to kind of mix it up. We're also adding a one-way alley with a bit of street side parking, just to ensure that we can actually fill in this space with the urban promenade stuff. I think I said plazas and promenades, but I think it's called urban promenades. Anyways, this is definitely a connection that is not going to result in this full-on intersection. And as I'm relatively happy with this road layout, at least for starters, I think we're just gonna get some of that cleaned up. So this won't be a full intersection, and neither will this. This one will though, because I mean we need to allow a left turn at some point in time. But it's not gonna be here. Oh man, I wouldn't say they were easy to align, but yeah, if we can just use a bit of recolor, then maybe it's gonna look all right. Maybe a few murals out back and some trees. Actually, I think that works just fine, at least for our purpose. And it looks good in general. I mean, it's obviously a pretty high density development, but it isn't super towering, like it doesn't overshadow the cathedral or anything like that. And the place is actually home to 700 households, which is really not too bad. It does need a quick layer of surfaces, a few decals, some trees, and probably some keys as well, just for a bit of detailing. For a quick makeover, that's really not too bad, although the yellow is, yeah, it's certainly a choice. I mean, blame the developer, not me. It does seem like several of these buildings have plenty of parking lots available already, but we probably need a bit more out here. So through the power of PDX mods, I have been able to grab some really small scale underground parking, which is awesome to say the least, because we've been needing this since the release of the game, because the vanilla underground parking, which is meant to be space efficient, isn't at all. It has a massive footprint for whatever reason, but this one we should be able to align carefully in really tight spaces. And just look at that asset, even has like a dedicated pathway for pedestrian use. Fully functional and adding 100 parking lots. Oh, that looks so cool. I mean, it's kind of steep, but especially with a trailer, that everyone is utilizing a trailer seemingly, but it's just a cool asset. Very nice. Before we leave the Armory, we will just do a few bike infrastructure upgrades because the current configuration doesn't make a ton of sense. I've allocated a 2-meter median in the center of the road here, while I could instead allocate that to protect the 2 bike lanes. So what I think we'll be doing is just downgrading it to this basic 4-lane road, and then we'll use Road Builder to just configure a version of this with protected bike lanes. Now this technically makes it a little wider than the previous configuration, so I'm going to see if I can reduce the median width to 1 meter on either side, which should bring it to the exact same width as before. Perfect. We can kind of see that it's all aligned up now, given how this surface isn't clipping onto the street anymore. So we basically just took the 2-meter median in the center and we kind of split that between the 2 lanes on either side. So we'll grab this segment and we'll say place more and just get the rest upgraded. And I'll make sure to get a proper name in place as well. So let's see. Bike protected. I think we used BP previously to designate these in other parts of the city, so I'm gonna stick with that. I am going to increase the speed limit to 60 though, as this is a bit of a high capacity bypass. At least that is the intention, as you'll all know by now. So in the future, if people actually opt out of utilizing this street when we build up this area, it's gonna be a little awkward. But I guess that is going to require more public transit then, which is always fun. We'll also be utilizing the new bike protected version to expand the bypass on this side of this crossing here. It does make everything just a little wider, but I think we can manage. I think that's just how it is. I mean, this is a pretty high-speed corridor. I do want the bike lanes to be protected at least until you end up at this split here. We can always reconfigure this if necessary. We can do the very same to the arterial in Concordia that crosses into Alexandria. This will make it slightly wider though, but I think that is perfectly fine. We haven't really placed anything super vital next to this arterial just yet, so I think we can manage. I am a bit curious just how thick the elevated segment here is going to be though, because we do have a pretty complex setup right here. But it actually looks like it is going to work just fine by upgrading this, probably because I have Anarchy enabled. But I mean, I can't play without it, so why not utilize it? It is going to make this overpass a little chunky, but I think that is worth it. One thing we might be able to do is configure this road even further so that the sidewalks are a little more narrow. I don't think they need to be 6 meters wide, but I don't want to bother with that right now. Staying in Concordia, we're going to grab the bike protected 2-lane divided avenue and just bring that through to this crossing here at the main arterial. like this, and then expand the bike infrastructure here a little bit as well. I mean, we need to get the bike lanes in place here at least, because it's a protected segment, so why not utilize it? And then for a bit of asymmetry, I think what we're going to do is just add a single bicycle lane here, so you can bike alongside the waterfront, which should also tie up decently up here, because you can only bike in one direction alongside the train station. So let's bring this all the way around, across this overpass and into the existing network. I also think this custom 8-lane tram-enabled segment we created earlier needs a little configuration, because I didn't consider the fact that cars would share the tram tracks, and I don't think that's necessary given 8 total lanes. So we'll grab this, we'll say edit all instances, and we'll make sure that these inner 2 tram lanes are tram only. So we're gonna get rid of both of them, which is going to completely mess up the network for a short while. Hopefully it all reconnects magically. Then we're going to add dedicated tram tracks to either side to get the pesky cars out of the way. Something we could do as well would be to reduce the width of the of these medians here, protecting the bike lanes, and then adding separate medians in between the 6 now lanes of traffic, regular traffic, and the 2 lanes of tram traffic. Alternatively, we might be able to just reduce the width of these sidewalks by 1 meter on either side, which should still enable, it still enables for bike infrastructure, so we're just going to go ahead and do that. And then we can reutilize the additional space we now have to add 1 meter medians in between the tram tracks and the other traffic. It should look just fine with a single meter. It even adds a bit of space for some of the poles here. Probably looks a little better at 2 meters, which we could do due to the available space we have, but it is going to make the sidewalks a little... Oh, whoops. Yeah, as you can see, it's going to make the sidewalks a little too tight. So we're just going to keep it at 1 meter. It is still a very chunky road, this one. But I think this is pretty nice. And I think it works really well spawning all the electricity poles for the trams as well. And it should get all these cars out of the way so that the tram is now prioritized. Alright, so we're getting to the final bits of development here before we dive into a small detailing session to really wrap up all the changes we've made. And for this next project, we're going to work on the very outskirts of Carlsbridge. Actually, technically, this lot isn't a part of Carlsbridge. What I imagine the narrative to be here is that there used to be some train-related industries or maintenance facilities here. They are now long gone, so during the 60s and 70s it was redeveloped into a bit of a high-density residential as the city grew. Very much like the theme is with the 2 cat towers we built earlier. Once again, we're looking to PDX mods, the Unity the Habitation from Marseille. I butchered that, I'm very sorry. And technically the building is from 1952, but I think the slightly brutal architecture can go for 1970s as well. This is a massive residential complex. I think it has hundreds of households or something like that, which is really nice. I'm going to attempt to place it so that I can wrap around a very small alley behind the building, because it has some pavement to connect there, and then add a bit of parking as well. But we'll see how this goes. I'll just get it aligned right here. I left a bit of space up front because I wanted to not just have a separate alley serving the building, but if I can squeeze in a single train track, like a remnant from the old times, that would be a fun little detail. I'm going to utilize this one-way lane with parking on one side I made with Road Builder a long time ago. It's only 0.9 units wide, so it's really cool for like wrapping in between small and tight spaces. I wouldn't mind it actually making the connection here, so we'll see if we can just freeform it to get the connection in place. And then we're just gonna try to wrap around the entire structure. I'm using anarchy, of course, for a bit of extra flexibility, but I will make sure that there's full clearance for all the pedestrians and cars being parked here. So let's see, we'll just move it, just need to bring this back a little bit, and I think the same is necessary over here. That looks pretty good. Now, something we can do to just make it a little more interesting and a little more practical, even though there are 80 parking lots with this asset, would be, I think, to just upgrade to the one-way perpendicular parking alley for at least a couple of segments. So I think this one should just about be feasible to squeeze in here. Come on. Oh, yes. Technically, we could do a small segment around back, but I don't want to fidget too much with it. So I'm just going to get this segment in place and probably see if we can just move this a little bit then. Or maybe just turn that into a regular alley so you can also enter here if you want to. I think that'd be fine. Same. Now we'll keep this. Once again, just a wonderful, wonderful looking asset all around. Beautiful craftsmanship. A bit of a pool and tanning deck up here to my surprise, but really nice nonetheless. Let's see, 300 households. So that's just fantastic. It adds some comfort, some attractiveness, 40 entertainment as well. And yeah, it does have the capacity of 80 parked vehicles besides the additional one we just provided. So I think that's fairly realistic. That should be pretty realistic. I do not imagine all households to have cars because you have so much great transportation and bike infra. Yeah, never mind. Don't look at me. Look away while I desperately, very, very quickly slap down some super basic bike infrastructure just to make not owning a car a little more desirable out here. This one should probably be doubled, as well as this small segment. And looky, you can now grab your bike. That is, I was just about to say car. I am a shill being paid by the oil industry here, but you can now grab your bike and bike directly to Concordia. You can bike from there into Old Town. You can bike into Alexandria as well. Yeah, we got that fixed quickly, didn't we? Anyways, getting the train track in here, that is going to be a mighty squeeze. I'm gonna save the game and give it a go. So for this purpose, I am grabbing the two-way train track unelectrified. Two-way, so it doesn't complain of lack of connections, and unelectrified for that slightly older look. Or I think, okay, we're gonna do something here. I'm just gonna create this segment right here. I'm gonna make sure it's aligned to the height of the building. Then I'm just gonna move this node further in, close to the road. And we're just gonna move this across the road here and maybe just lower it a little bit for the texture to kind of move away. We can now bring this up a little bit. There you go. And then we'll just drag this out. Yeah, this is, it's not meant to be functional at all, both in game terms, but also in reality. It is a now defunct track, something that was kept in place for a bit of flair when this used to house a bit of maintenance stuff. We can even add like an additional track just for the heck of it. I think for ease, I am just gonna make sure this area, this development is actually a part of Carlsbridge. I think that makes the most sense. And then the train tracks and this, like the main avenue here, kind of separates this into a new district altogether. It is now time to wrap up with a bit of a general detailing session, just moving through some of the different districts, adding some light detailing that hopefully adds a lot of character. We'll get back to some heavy detailing later on, but I am so pleased with all the progress and all the big changes we've made. It can be kind of hard to see if you zoom out, especially in Old Town. But moving in, I think it's very, very clear that we have dramatically changed the overall look of this place. I think it fits the narrative I envisioned much better. And as always, I just want to thank you guys so much for all the feedback. It has been immensely helpful. It is across all cities, but especially here in Zeeburg, where I really just had to kind of get back into it, get some new ideas, get some new perspectives of different things. So I do hope you'll enjoy the final time-lapse and cinematics, and I can't wait for your feedback and suggestions for what we should expand with here in Zeeburg in the upcoming episodes. Thank you all so much for watching. Goodbye.